Vince McMahon, we've heard about what's been going on. Vince McMahon has retired as the CEO and mega super god of WWE. He's had all these allegations put against him about paying off women he slept with and divas and all sorts of stuff. And it's kind of coming. The house of cards is falling down on Vince McMahon right now. This out of this out of Variety says WWE says Vince McMahon under investigation for alleged misconduct made personal payments totaling $19.6 million. Okay, first off, it's amazing that he had like $19.6 million laying around. I mean, he's a billionaire and stuff, and $19.6 million is a lot of money. But you put it in perspective, it's not that much when you're a billionaire, multi-billionaire. It's just kind of like a thing, But I see these people, and I guess my thought when it comes to Vince McMahon and these allegations is like, yeah, tell me something I don't know. like if you would have watched anything on WWE Raw through the late 90s into the early 2000s, from the Attitude Era into Ruthless Aggression, I think that's just who Vince McMahon is. And does it make it right? No, it does not. Am I saying these allegations are correct? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I will say that if it looks like a fish and it swims like a fish, it's probably a fish. And I think Vince McMahon's a fish. I just think it's one of those things. So the new thing that came down today, Vince McMahon, he made 2 additional payments totaling $5 million, unrelated to the allegations that led to the board's special committee investigation in 2007 and 2009, which should have been recorded in the company's consolidation financial statements. WWE did not provide details on what Vince McMahon's $5 million payments were for. WWE had previously aimed to issue the revised financial statements, blah, 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 financial statements, blah, 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 blah. I'll say this. We all know, I don't know many billionaires, right? But I will say this. If you're a billionaire, you probably didn't get there being the nicest person in the world, right? And there's the old saying, once you have money, you have power, and the power goes to your head, right? When you have that much money, chances are you feel like you can do anything. And you have power over people because they want that money too. And whether that's 1998, 2007, or 2,562, that will always be the same, because there will be time where people want what you have and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get it. And they'll shut up when you give them a giant bag of money to do so. It's pretty fascinating, but I will, I think it's one of those things where as you look at Vince McMahon and his life and his career, it's amazing to see that it's taken 70 some odd years for this house of cards to be falling down. But like the fact that anybody would actually be surprised at this is amazing. Does it take away anything that he's done from the wrestling life? No, I don't think it does. I think that he took wrestling out of bingo halls and this regional thing and turned it into this thing that everybody loves right now. He made it possible for CM Punk to jump the rail tonight and come down the ramp and surprise everybody, right? Without Vince McMahon, those moments wouldn't happen. And you can think he's a big old trash bag of a person. That's fine. I can separate the two between the businessman who grew his empire and the personal trash bag he is to women and his workers, or I guess not even his workers, his freelancers. I personally can do that. I don't know if you can, but I'm able to do that. And I think that I marvel at what he's been able to do as the key focus point of wrestling for the last 30-something years. Like I said, is he a trash bag human? Absolutely. I'm sure he is. Did I want to work for him at one time? Absolutely. I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to learn from a certified genius? But I would love to hear what your thoughts are on Vince McMahon. It's a very polarizing topic right now in the wrestling world. Now that Vince is gone, Triple H is taking over, and the show is going to get so much better, and it's going to be like NXT a couple of years ago. I know. I've heard it all. People are really excited because Vince is dead. Right? Not really dead, but and now he's finally gone. The old man's gone, and now the new flock is coming in. So that's right. It's like, as Harrison points out, says they don't call him the genetic jackhammer for nothing. All right, let's turn our way over to the chat real quick. CJ says, if Vince is a fish, he's an angler fish, no question. Right. Travis has some really interesting points here. Says, I will say this: I trust no one who speaks out about things that happen under an NDA if they signed for money. Having said that, I think that's interesting. He says, having said that, enough people said shit about him that didn't sign them. So yeah, it's probably true. I think there's actually that's actually a really interesting thought process, because NDAs are signed all the time, a non-disclosure agreement, when it comes to any sort of agreement outside of the normal circumstances. You see, sometimes people will go into relationships and have NDA signed. If you're top mega stars or you're people who have a lot to lose because their public image is something, right? Think about like what's happened to Will Smith in the last, I don't know, year or so, right? His fall from grace as being like this golden boy in Hollywood, not a golden man, right? He was at one time with the top paid actor in all of Hollywood, right? And his bread and butter, his words not mine, is social media, right? And his wife, crazy ex-wife, I don't even know her situation, crazy eyes. She comes out with a cell phone at him, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't want to be on social media." And you have to think that in relationships like that, where you're such a public figure, NDAs are signed all of the time, whether it's a long-term relationship or a one-night stand. I guarantee those things happen. They go down all of the time while things are going down all of the time, if you catch my drift. Punisher Max says, Vince could have given a raise to a great wrestler like Cesaro with that kind of money, right? Mm-hmm. That's funny, because you got to stay within your budgets, I guess. And sometimes those wrestlers, they end up leaving, and then you end up going to your competitor and floundering out there. So Crazy John says, I don't think anyone with an NDA came forward. I think this was all found out by the company. Yeah, whether or not it was an NDA signed or somebody leaked it or found out by the company, still doesn't matter. I mean, it's like, we are who we thought we were. What's that old saying? I think it was Herm Edwards back when he coached the Jets. He's like, we are who we thought we were. Vince is who we thought he was. It is what it is. Let's keep going with a little bit more wrestling. I thought this was kind of a fun story today. Ex-WWE employee was suspended over slap fight with Paul Heyman. Oh my God. Okay, so there's a former WWE writer, Brian Gerwitz, I guess. He said he got in a slap fight with Paul Heyman, which got both men suspended, which is the rightful thing. If somebody's like doing the girl slap fight, he says Gerwitz didn't comment on what sparked the altercation. He noticed it wasn't exactly Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield. He says he's talking about his book. He said, you'll love the chapter in my book where Paul Heyman and I actually got into an actual slap fight and got suspended from WWE. It was a, by the way, I get along great. Oh, it was a, by the way, I get along great with Paul now. Well, won the fight. Don't know if I would say that. That gif where Jerry and George from Seinfeld, I think, it wasn't exactly Tyson and Holyfield were there doing that thing. So it's just kind of funny to think about those altercations that happen in such a testosterone-filled environment, like a wrestling background that is literally filled with testosterone and testosterone. But you don't exactly think of that when you think of Paul Heyman, but you do think of a hard-headed dude who's not afraid to say what he thinks. And I think that's one of the things when you look at guys who have been around for a long time, your Paul Heymans, your JRs, guys who have been through it when they seeing wrestling go from essentially its infancy of the regions all the way up to what it is today. Most of them just don't care. I remember I personally interviewed JR and King back at E3 several years ago, probably, 10, 15 years ago, 10, 12 years ago now. And I thought it was so amazing. They were doing an autograph session. I pulled up right behind them. But honestly, JR could not have given a rat's ass that the interview was happening. And King was trying to, I think King was still doing his thing where he's all happy and giddy and going crazy. And that was super fun. But JR just couldn't care. He couldn't care then, and I don't think he could care now. So pretty fascinating stuff. Let's go one more here. One more wrestling. Oh, we got two more wrestling stories here. This one. Ric Flair recently had his last match, and it came out on his podcast that he said he passed out twice during his final match in Nashville. If you watched his final match, man, oh man. Listen, I want to say this. Ric Flair, one of the greatest of all time, clearly, right? But at 70-something years old, 73 years old, probably shouldn't have had a last match, right? But, his career ended perfectly when he was in WWE with the sweet chin music coming from Shawn Michaels. Then he went and did the TNA stuff because he needed money. He self-admitted that. And he came back into this one last match where he probably shouldn't have, but he was drinking too much, I guess, beforehand. And he said he passed out 2 times during it. He says, I don't think people realize that I passed out twice, he said. Well, what happened was, to my regimentation, that training was so strict that I kept my weight. I wanted my perfectly weighty to be at 220 going in. So the last day and a half, aside from all the work that we had planned for me to do, I didn't hydrate. I had it in my mind that I wanted to weigh 219. So I went to the ring and I'm like 217 pounds. And what happened during the body of the match is that I just became dehydrated. I actually was standing on the apron. I looked at Jay, who was an opponent, and just started a wheel of motion. I said, man, I think I'm going to be sick because I was getting lightheaded. Nothing to do with my heart or nothing to do with my intestines. I was just lightheaded. I'm sure it was all nerves as well. So I think Jay said, guys, we got to move this along when that's not what he meant. So he ended up getting it over there, getting in. And after the match, he said, following the match, Flair was ready to pound back a few celebratory beers, but WWE legend The Undertaker made sure his friend took down a few Gatorades first. My hands started trembling, but it was all dehydration, Flair said. I had 2 doctors in there right away with me and everything, and The Undertaker came running in. I had like 6 beers there. He took them out of my hand and said, you're drinking 2 Gatorades first. So I drank 2, and that's all it was. I underestimated the importance of keeping hydrated, which is really big, especially when I lost that much weight and trained that hard. It's just amazing what age will do to you. And if you don't hydrate, I see it all the time. Look, I coach girls soccer. They don't do a good enough job hydrating. I try to get them hydrated leading up to things. We got a big tournament this weekend. Are they going to be hydrated? Probably not. But I'm going to really push it. I'm drinking stuff right now. You got to hydrate. It's crazy. Aussie Man over on Twitch says, I'm surprised Flair's match didn't end with him turning to dust. Ric Flair's last match should have been him walking in to the match, doing a couple chest slaps, whoo, bam, 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 doing his strut, coming in, and then popping on a figure 4, 3 minutes long, in and out. Everyone's happy. He gets his rides off into the sunset, and he doesn't pass out twice. It's crazy. Crazy. Got a great conversation happening over on YouTube. Glad you guys are popping in. This is excellent. And chit-chatting over there about everything that's happening, which is great. While I have an opportunity, I want to let you know that Com gifted a tier 1 sub to CJ Blackthorn. Thank you very much, Com. Greatly appreciate that. Sir Straw Hat coming in with the $2 super chat says, how has Linda not left Vince by now? Look, you want to talk about a situation that is just better if you stay together. At this point, they're not staying together for the kids. We know that. They're not staying together for the kids. They're staying together for themselves and the money and the opportunity, right? Because Vince McMahon, in a situation like that, Linda knows what's going on. And Linda's probably done her little diddling too. I'm not throwing any accusations out, but I'm just saying most of the time when you know something's happening on one side, the other person will probably go out. At least that's what I hear. I don't know. It seems like I've seen it that way in the movies. But I would not be surprised if Linda was out there doing her own thing anywhere. Bauer Fan came in with 400 bits. Thank you so much, Bauer Fan. Greatly appreciate that. That is great. That's awesome. And Splice Stream came in with the $2 super chat. Says, can't stay. Wanted to say welcome back, old friend. Hey, Splice Stream, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate that. I am back, ready to go. And I got to be honest, I'm having a really fun time hanging out with you guys and doing this. No, it's not gaming, but I like talking with you guys about these things. I think this is super fun. And once again, this is a nightly thing, Sunday through Thursday at 10 p.m. Central Time, with the episodes posted the following day over on youtube.com/stutteringcraig. Let's go one last wrestling story here, and that is the return of CM Punk. Recently injured, he is back, ready to go. He returned tonight I'm going to keep the volume down, but we'll watch this together as CM Punk came down to the ring, busted some buttocks, threw Sammy Guevara into the wall. Jake Hagar tossed over the ring. Probably should have taken a hit, just falls on down. I guess there was a big match between Jericho and Moxley. And can we just stop something really quick? There's the Blackpool Combat Club, right? And this is my first time seeing this. Can we talk about this right here? Can we get over the NWO stuff? Like, it's been 25 years since NWO. Does everything need to be NWO? I know it was awesome, but it's clearly ripping off NWO. Like, we clearly don't need to do that. It's crazy. Anyway, so he comes down, and guess what? Sure enough, yells at these guys, the Jericho thing. Moxley, he stands up. Moxley, they have their face off. And when I saw this, I thought this was really kind of stupid. Do you guys remember when Rock and Hogan squared off against each other, and it was like electric, and they're staring at each other? Then they both one looks one way, the other one looks the other way. I've never professionally wrestled, but is this a thing? Look at this. One looks one way. Moxley looks first. And then Punk looks the other way. Like, is this a thing that I don't know? Is this like part of the? Because that's my first thought. Then they look back and then they look the other way. And then Moxley gives them the old finger. No respect, because Moxley's the interim champion and CM Punk is the active champion. I don't know the whole situation outside of they'll certainly have some sort of unification battle. And that'll be big because CM Punk was the champion before he had to go for injury and stuff. And I've kind of fallen out of AEW. I haven't been watching a whole lot, but it's interesting to kind of watch from afar. And I certainly have watched the highlights. And just with the news, I think there's definitely curiosity with WWE right now, seeing what will happen with Triple H in the driver's seat from a creative perspective. So. Wrestling has a lot of good going for it right now. If your name is not Vince McMahon.